Hey everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm so excited to be guest designing for Scrapping for Less. And this month, the April Flavor of the Month card kit is all about spring critters. This collection is so darn cute. I think it's one of my favorites that Scrapping for Less has ever come out with. And that's a little image of the various collections within that kit. And this is also what comes with the kit. On the left, you see a detailed listing of all of the items in the kit. In the middle, you see the picture of the cardstock and envelopes that comes with it. Below, you see the banana split add-on that you can add to your kit. And on the right were sketches that you can use to, get your juices flowing. This first card that I'm making is using the collection that has the kind of boho feel to it. It's got adorable little birds, and I'm adding the sentiment from the banana split add-on that goes, I think, with the birds perfectly. So I'm sharing with you guys the process. I've already stamped out the birds here, but I'm stamping out the sentiment from that banana split, and I'm going to use an oval die from my stash to cut out this area. And I cut it out a little bit big, so off camera, I think I'm going to be cutting away a little bit from that. Now, first off, I'm using some of the adorable papers that were in this collection. The collection is called Spring Birds, and the paper is actually from Gina K Designs, Journey of the Heart. And I'm kind of mixing some of the pattern papers to create the card front. I'm going to add on a little banner underneath it with some green cardstock that was just a scrap from my scrap box. And I'm going to cut a little banner. This is actually following one of the sketches that was included in the kit. And you can see I'm just lifting off the pattern paper that I had temporarily adhered with my glue stick there. I wanted to cut it a little bit shorter. And now I'm going to hand cut the tails of the banner on one side of this green cardstock, and I'm going to layer it underneath. I thought I would keep the color palette pretty tight, just using the colors that were on that beautiful kind of clover swirly pattern paper that's included in this Spring Birds collection. I'm using some wet glue. This sticks much better than my glue stick. And I'm adding that to kind of the lower 1/3 of this card front, adding some more glue to the back of this beautiful script pattern paper that was part of this paper collection. I need to cut off a little bit more so that it kind of stair steps a little bit away from the edge of where I had hand cut that banner. And here you'll see that I decide that the oval is a little too large. So off camera, I cut away by sketching around it and cutting around about maybe a 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And now I'm going to do some really simple Copic coloring. I've added some greens. Again, I'm trying to keep the color palette really tight, so I'm using greens that I think will coordinate nicely with the greens in the pattern papers. And the birds, I'm keeping kind of this earthy beige color. So those are the main colors that I'm using. I'm using just 2 colors in each of the color families to add a little bit of shading. Not too much. This area, the birds are pretty small, so I don't need to add, the normal 3 colors to do a little blending. Then I decided to give a nice edge to this oval. I'm going to use some Tim Holtz Distressed ink in Chipped Sapphire. And this, again, brings in the blue. And I edged it first with my blending tool, and then I'm bringing in just a little bit of light color all the way around. I didn't want the stark white of this cardstock to kind of distract from the color families that I'm using on the card. So I think a little halo of pale blue really works well there. Oh, my glue bottle is a little jammed up there, but I actually decided it was for the best because I'm going to pop up this little oval, the focal point of the card, with some double-sided foam adhesive, and I'm taking off the release paper off of this foam tape, and then I'm going to place that right toward the 2/3 on the left side there. And then for the inside of the card, I thought I would use more of that beautiful script paper to line the inside of the card completely. And then I will use some white cardstock to create the liner area where I can write my note to whoever I'm sending this card to. So I put that there. And then I decide I'm going to use a little scrap of that beautiful background scroll and clover paper. It was just a leftover scrap, so I thought I would add that to the lower 1/3 of the inside of the liner sheet, cutting off the excess there on the back side with my scissors. And then I thought I would just doodle in a little branch so that the bird above will be standing on something, not just kind of floating there with its wings down. And I'm using a Copic multiliner pen to do that. And again, I'm just repeating the same green. And this time I thought I'd do a little bit of shading there on the leaves. And then I thought I would add a slightly darker brown. This is an E13 for the branch so that it doesn't look like it's exactly the same color as the birds there. And I think I add a little bit of ground shadow for the bird that's standing on the ground there. And then on the inside, I thought, why not add one of the little ephemera pieces that says hello to the inside. So I'm adding some glue to the back of that. I've edged it with some more of that chipped sapphire ink. And I think that completes the card. I really enjoyed making this card. It was so fast and easy following that sketch. This is card number 2, and I thought I'd make a little bee shaker card. And I'm using the beautiful pattern paper from the Springtime Paper Collection by Scrapping for Less. And I've actually placed it exactly where I want it on my card base. And I'm using the circle die to cut out the hole. And I thought I would cut it all at the same time so that I could make sure that everything lined up perfectly, spaced with a little matte border all around the card front. And I'm going to glue that into place, that beautiful pattern paper. I love the colors in that. It's so springy and happy. Then I am using a Shake It little pouch that I had in my stash. It's just a little shaker pouch. Essentially, it's hard plastic, and I'm using some score tape. It's 1/8 inch score tape, and I'm placing it all around the top of the edge of this little shaker pouch. And I think using score tape works perfectly for this. Score tape is really strong and it adheres well even to non-porous substances like this plastic shaker pouch. And I'm using my bone folder just to make sure that it's really adhered well to the plastic. And then I'm taking off the release paper, putting that inside. And again, I'm just pressing it down from the front side with my bone folder. At this point, I'm putting in shaker pieces from this collection, the Spring Birds collection, but I actually probably should have done that after putting the score tape on the back side of this shaker pouch. So I'm doing it now, but now I have to, of course, be really careful that I don't jostle the card as I'm doing this, because the little sequin pieces can jump out while I am putting on the score tape on the back side of this. Like I said, there's one that just popped out and stuck to my fingers because of the static. If I had done this in the proper sequence, I wouldn't have had any of those issues, but it's not a big deal. There's another piece that jumped out there, but I'm taking off the release paper here, struggling a little bit. But once I get that release paper off, this I know is going to be super secure onto another piece of pattern paper that I thought was so cute. I decided I was going to add one of those adorable little Jolie's Boutique bees on the inside as well. So that panel that I've got prepared over on the right is going to be adhered to the back of the card front. So I'm making sure that I have all the edges well glued down all around the shaker area, and that little bee will end up inside the shaker area as well, that little sticker, that 3D sticker. And that's basically the shaker components. Really easy, super cute. So then I decided I was going to use the Pink Fresh bird stamp set or bee stamp set, and I'm going to use the sentiment just because from that stamp set. And inside, I'm also using the little flying kind of hash lines for indicating the flying trajectory of the little bees. And I'm using more of the bee stickers for the inside liner. That's what I'm creating here. I decide I'm going to wipe off a little bit of that bee trajectory stamp for the lower third stamping on the inside liner. And I'm adding another bee. Sorry, I'm a little bit off camera there, but that's what I did for the inside liner. I think that's so cute. And then I'm using the bees from the stamp set, and I'm doing, again, simple Copic coloring. I'm using a couple of yellows, a couple of blues for the wings, and then that C7 for the dark stripes. So just a tiny bit of shading just to add a little bit of dimension, a little bit of darkness on the lower part of each of the bees, and then blending back out with a lighter color. I'm going to do the same thing with the wings. I'm adding the light B00 and then adding a little bit of dimension at the base of the wings and where the wings overlap with the B01, and then blending back out with a light color. And then I decided to use that C7 for the black bumblebee stripes. And like I said, super easy, and I've fussy cut them out off camera, and I'm just using some multi matte medium by Ranger, which is included in this month's Banana Split add-on. Isn't that great? And it's perfect for gluing things onto non-porous substances. And so this little trio of bees is going to be on the front of this little shaker pouch. And I thought that could be done just right there after I, adhere the liner piece into the inside of the card. Sorry, my glue bottle is just jamming up on me, but it's coming out. So I'm going to glue that on. I didn't want little blobs of glue, so I'm using my finger just to smooth that out, and that will go inside the card. And then I thought the front looks a little too busy, so I'm going to use the Stay Beautiful punny stamp from the Banana Split add-on stamp set, and I'm stamping it out 3 times because the background pattern paper that I'm using, which is the back side of the floral, is a little bit busy, and I wanted to make sure that the stamping, the sentiment really showed up, so that's why I stamped it 3 times. And that's the completed card. Again, super easy, really fast. The pattern papers and the stamps make it so easy and fun to make cards. This is the 3rd card I'm going to share with you guys. It's this adorable little froggy stamp set from the Spring Fever paper that I'm using here is from Scrapping for Less, and the Totally Terrific stamp set that I'm using is also from Scrapping for Less. And I'm stamping out on a Post-it note paper because I want to create a quick mask. And I'm going to fussy cut this out really fast from this Post-it note paper because I wanted to create a mask before I stamped out the lily pad area that he's going to be sitting on. And sorry, this is taking a little bit longer, but even though I've sped this up, I didn't want it to be a blur, but I wanted to share with you guys that creating a mask is really easy. You just stamp out the image one more time, and you always stamp first the image that is most forward toward you, and then you put down the mask, and then stamp out the image that is receding or behind this first image that you stamped out. So here I'm putting the mask down, and then I'm going to stamp out this lily pad and the little reeds and the pools of water, the kind of ripples from the water, and I'm going to stamp that out. I just wanted to make sure the positioning of it was good, and I'm using more Memento Tuxedo black ink to stamp that out. And voila, it looks like the frog is sitting right on top of this lily pad that's floating in rippling water. I'm running that through my Big Shot, and I used another oval die, and I thought I would use more of the pattern paper in this collection to create a little mat all the way around the little frog because I thought that would set it off nicely. This is another pattern paper that I'm going to use for the entire card front. I love this floral, but it also has kind of a pattern to it that is a little bit graphic, just the repeat of it. Then I'm using the little scrap of it left over on the other side so that it kind of creates the look almost like of a belly band. But then I decided it was too conflicting, so I glue on the oval in the middle of that belly band area, but then I pull it all up because I wanted to create more of that same border. So I use more of that pattern that I used on the oval border for the edging around the kind of stripy area around the middle. Now I'm going to jump over to the Copic coloring. Again, these images are so small that it's really, really easy Copic coloring. I first put down a base of the pale green, and then I decide the belly and the little cheeks can get a little pink, and the toes also could get a little pink, so I'm using an R21. And then I decide to add a little bit of shading just at the base of the chin, around the edges of the eyes, where the eyes kind of bulge out from the head. Where there might be cast shadows by his belly, by his leg folds. Those areas get a little bit of darker green, and then I'm blending out with a lighter green. Again, super easy Copic coloring, but I think it comes out really cute, nice and bright. Decided to add a little bit more shading to the pink areas as well. And then with a darker green, I'm going in and coloring the lily pad. I didn't want it to blend into the frog completely, so I'm using a slightly darker green. And then the reeds get that E57. And then I thought for the water ripples, I would go and alternating blue colors. So the lighter area right around the lily pad, because I didn't want it to blend too much in with the green of the lily pad, then the darker blue, then the lighter blue. And then I decide to use a much lighter blue for the rest of the water area. So I'm using that B00 to bring out the color of the water, but keep it nice and bright. So I decide off camera that I want to add a couple more reeds. So I do a couple more stampings of that and add that to the front oval focal point area. And I'm adding more double-sided foam adhesive to pop up this little oval just a little bit, wanting to add a little bit of dimension to this card as well. And center that right there. And then for the sentiment inside, I'm using the banana split add-on. It says hopping by with a spring hello, and I'm adding that to the inside liner, which I've lined first with another beautiful pattern paper from this collection. And now it has a nice sized border all the way around it, but plenty of room for me to write my little message. And then I decided I wanted to add maybe a little bit more coming off of that inside oval. So I've stamped out another lily pad and another little reed, and I'm adding that with some wet glue to give just a little more interest. I thought that the frog seemed a little bit off center, and I like things in threes. So adding 3 of those reeds, I thought finished it off nicely. And then off camera, I added a little paper flower and some sequins from the collection as well. I hope you enjoyed this process video of me creating these 3 cards from the Scrapping for Less Spring Critters April Flavor of the Month card kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please go check out Scrapping for Less. This April kit is adorable. I'll put a link in the description box below. Thanks for watching, everybody.